Coming up on TekThing, Pokemon Panic. People, you gotta chill. Hands on with QNAP's new TAS-268 NAS, dash cams, and recording the police back up 100 terabytes online for cheap, and so much more. It's all coming up on TekThing. Thanks to everyone that supports the show via patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every show.
Speaking of which, oh my goodness, have you been meaning to secure a free copy of Windows 10?
I mean, I switched to Linux, so...
I'm going to take that as a no. But if you are thinking about getting a free copy of Windows 10, the offer expires on July 29th. That is the end of this month, people. If you upgrade before then, you have free Windows 10 on that device until it explodes. Or hey, Windows 11. I kid. Because in theory, right, Windows 10 is now a service and it goes on forever and ever. In any case, your Windows 7, 8, or 8.1 key can be used to activate the corresponding edition of Windows 10. And if you're not ready to run Windows 10, but you're thinking to yourself, I want the free software.
Yeah. So yeah, HowToGeek says that the easiest way to do this is to use the rollback feature to uninstall Windows 10 and then get your old Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 system back. Or better yet, you can make a backup image of your system with Macrium Reflect and then create rescue media, then install Windows 10, and you should be good to go for Windows 10 on that machine in the future. So in the future, you can use your rescue media to restore your current operating system without worrying about anything.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. It's basically what I'm doing for my last remaining Windows 7 PC.
Cool.
Yo.
So, by the way, if you guys are panicking about Pokemon Go, not Pokemon. He totally said Pokemon before we started recording today.
I say Bookface too.
So if you guys are worried about Pokemon Go having full access to your Google account, take a deep breath. First up, this seems to be only happening on iOS platforms, so iPhones. Second, you can always log into Google and go over to your security settings, which are under /security/permissions, to find out what applications have access to your Google account, which generally is a good idea for anybody living La Vida Google, Pokemon Go or not.
Speaking of which, I have no idea what Wii Video is, but now I have to find out because I went to look at my, what?
Yeah, I mean, you might grant some strange permissions back in the day, and it's been 3 or 4 years. Surprise. You don't know what's in there anymore. So definitely check it, even if you aren't playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
As far as Pokemon Go goes, if you are worried about your data, look for the Pokemon Go release entry, click on it, and then click the giant remove button. Although you will probably screw up your ability to play. Hopefully it doesn't screw it up, but reinstalling the application seems to fix it. By the way, the word is that Pokemon Go is going to have an update that is going to fix this so that Go only accesses the basic info. And apparently that was an accident by Niantic.
Oversight.
An oversight.
Yeah. Terrible mistake that turned into a giant online Twittery panic.
Yeah. Are you playing Pokemon Go?
No.
I am.
Well, can you imagine, I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old.
It's so much fun. I'm addicted.
I will think about that.
I've been trying to catch an Eevee, and there's no Eevees out here in San Francisco. I don't know what's going on.
I hear there's one in the middle of I actually hear there are Pokemon in the middle of the little things in the middle of the people are taking kayaks and boats out in the middle of San Francisco Bay to catch them.
I believe it. Okay, moving on.
Moving on. At Ground Rat tweets, at Patrick Norton, I'm a person of color. I'm worried about my safety. Could you show how to build a dash camera with a DVR on the show?
Okay.
Look, last week was flat out horrible. I spent a lot of last week on spending 8 or 9 hours in an airport, getting to an empty hotel, and discovering that terrible things had happened. 2 black men shot by police, 5 officers protecting a peaceful protest in Dallas killed by sniper fire. And despite that, statistically, we are living with the least amount of violent crime in the U.S. in decades, people are scared, and I get that. So first up, like I said on Twitter, I don't think we can build something better than what you can buy in terms of dash cams, but there's a lot more that we can cover. Look, seriously, spend the $50 to $100 for a camera. that works and works every time, and put a big giant SD card into it.
Yes.
Spend time setting it up. And remember, that camera will not record anything that happens if you're pulled outside of the car, if it is attached to your window.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think audio is important in that case.
Yeah.
So I have this little one. It's called the SplashETech Mini 0106 Dash Cam. You can find it over at splashetech.net, and it costs around $100 for one of these guys. They record, and I have 2 micro SD cards in mine. So there's an A and a B, and they do looping recordings.
Right.
And it's 1920 by 1080, so it's full HD and very, very wide. Don't have the exact measurement on the
It's like somewhere around 150 or 170
Yeah,
degrees.
so I have some B-roll here that you can watch of just one of my regular drivings, but it captures the audio inside of your car, and you can also position it so that it's either recording outside, or you can twist it around so it can see you and what's happening inside the car too. Right. So haven't had the need to use it to justify any kind of problems like crashes or anything, but it's really, really good thing to have just to cover your butt.
One of the stories that came out is as dash cams started becoming incredibly popular in Russia, because there was a scam where people would back their car into the car behind them and then basically try to run an insurance scam.
Yeah, amazing videos on YouTube, by the way.
Terrifying videos on YouTube. You know, bringing this back, if you haven't seen them, check out the Mobile Justice apps. There's iOS and Android versions from the ACLU. For example, the one that we link to is Mobile Justice California. It's an easy way to record and report interactions with law enforcement. All the footage and reports are submitted through this app. They go to the local ACLU affiliate, although I think you can make that optional. You don't necessarily have to submit it. But they are in 18 states at this point. And
very cool.
Yeah, well, let's keep talking about the hardware and the tech for a minute.
Absolutely.
One of the most popular ones out there right now, the Zero Edge Technology Z-Edge Z3 is another option for you.
Oh, look, there's a lightning deal because it's Amazon Prime Day.
Oh my goodness. There's some crazy deals on Amazon Prime today. This one has excellent reviews. It's a Wirecutter pick. This is 2560 by 1080 video. It's got a 145-degree field of view, and one of the things you want to do is as you get larger fields of view, as the lens kind of get wired, as the lens gets too wide, you end up with a lot of distortion. This one has decent audio recording and deals well with lighting conditions, excellent build quality. You know, one of the things Ground Rat mentioned was he's like 360 not needed. Just the cockpit with a window view. So remember, right, dash cams are designed to pick up what's going on in front of you as a witness to show how that accident really happened. Now, Shannon's is really cool. She can whip it around 180 degrees to get a view inside the cockpit. I would say mount it so you can see as much of you and the window as possible. It's frustrating, but I would rather have confirmation that my hands were on the wheel and not reaching towards anything. I have kept my hands, like, if I am pulled over, and occasionally I am pulled over, you know, I pull over in the safest spot as far away from traffic as I can get. My hands are up on top of the wheel, usually with my wrists crossed for no particular reason, and my hands are open and the interior lights are on. And I've been doing this ever since a 30-year veteran of the New Jersey State Police suggested it was a good idea, because his wife was my mother's teaching partner, and I was getting pulled over a lot because I used to dress funny and leave nightclubs really late, often wearing a Rasta beanie, and I got pulled over a lot. Yeah, I looked like a goober that was probably a ripe candidate for a DUI. And what you discover as a 2-year sober 22-year-old is that military courtesy, yes sir, no ma'am, goes for a long way. Which brings me to audio recording. I think having audio recording is a good idea, though the quality may be meh. It will hopefully record you being calm and polite. A 40-something-year-old sergeant once saved me from a really unpleasant interaction with a very young summer officer at the Jersey Shore when he pointed out to the young officer that I said, "Pardon me, officer," and hadn't actually asked his young partner to do something anatomically improbable involving his mother. Oh. Look.
Yeah, great point.
And let me make this really clear. The vast majority of law enforcement are overworked, overharried, and desperately trying to make this a better place to live. You know, but understand, this gets intense. And also you should understand kind of what's going on in terms of who and what you can record.
Right, yeah. So while you are filming police officers or other law enforcement while they are on duty, it's generally okay.
On duty?
Yes, on duty. Officers have no reasonable expectation of privacy whenever they interact in the public. So that doesn't apply to recording private citizens. The rules vary from state to state. For example, in California, you have to have a two-party consent state. So this means that it is a crime to create an audio recording of a conversation where other parties have a reasonable expectation of privacy without the consent of all parties on the conversation.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to mention pro tip, when it comes to calls, they usually start with, like, if you're calling a company, calls may be recorded. So if you are talking to that company, that means that the representative of that company has no reasonable expectation of privacy.
And neither do you.
Yeah, nor should you. There might even be a supervisor listening in on the call. You don't know. It's kind of a gray area as to whether or not you should also tell the rep that you are recording a phone call, but I always record my phone calls with companies. It has actually saved my butt a few times from getting screwed over by a big company, especially when they'll tell you something over the phone and then send you a bill that's completely different. So keep that in mind, and then make sure to check those state laws. Very, very important.
Yeah, because things change state by state. Not too long ago in Illinois, you could get in incredible amounts of trouble recording a police officer. Look, understand that really broken members of law enforcement might have zero issue with threatening you if you don't stop recording. They might attempt to charge you with resisting arrest. They might try to erase your video, which is verboten without a warrant, or outright stealing your micro SD card. And hey, if you're recording somebody else, back up. Don't try to get close up and in the middle of the action. One, the video won't be as useful, and two, you don't want to be obstructing the officer and get yourself arrested.
Yeah.
So, by the way, the ACLU has a great guide what to do if you're stopped at aclu.org that everybody should read and parents should give to the new drivers and the family so they know what is considered appropriate and legal behavior. And also, by the way, it helps a lot. One of the things I was told is, pull over quickly, pull over as far as you can so the officer isn't standing in traffic, have that light on, have your hands up, and just be calm and stay safe, people.
Yeah, stay safe.
Prayers for
everybody.
Everyone, because this is bad, and let's try to make it better.
I send good karma to everyone.
Please. In our never-ending search for better ways to keep your home network functioning, your media streaming, and your stuff backed up, we have a NAS review. QNAP's latest, the TAS-268, which not only has a Linux-based operating system, but an Android operating system.
Yeah.
Android on a NAS.
Isn't that crazy?
I can't decide if I'm excited
let me
or
show
scared.
you show you how interesting and neat this is. So on one hand we have, the regular NAS operating system with a bunch of apps and stuff. And then on the other hand we have, this is an Android operating system. So yeah, I'm totally logged in on two different monitors right now. It's kind of cool. So
is it an interface or an actual two operating systems running simultaneously?
It's two different systems running simultaneously. So they have the Android operating system, of course, and then they have QNAP QTS, which is the NAS operating system, which is very similar. If you've seen my review of Synology's Disk Station Manager, it's very similar to that. And it has the ability to install applications for media service. You can do backups just like any other NAS. You can do streaming. But then it also comes with that Android operating system, which allows you to access locally without a network connection to a separate PC. So I literally have like a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor hooked up straight into the NAS so I can access the Android operating system. I can download things off Google Play. I connect it to my Google account so that I can access all of my account information from there and watch like Google Play movies on the NAS.
So it's like an Android set-top box / NAS.
It is.
Two
now,
drives?
yes, there are two different disk drives in here. I have two terabyte Western Digital Reds in here, both specifically for NAS. They do have a whole compatibility list on their website of different hard disk drives that will work for all of their different NASs that QNAP sells. So definitely check that if you're looking into purchasing one of the QNAP NASs. This one in particular is really good for home use. It's $249 on Amazon, and that's without the hard drive. So you have to buy those separately. But it's really easy to install. So first off, with speed tests, because I know everybody's interested in the speed tests, and I actually did a couple comparing this to my Synology, so you can see those. This is the NAS. So this is using the Crystal Disk Mark speed test on gigabit LAN on my home network. I got For the sequential, it was 73 read and about 110 write. Compared to my Synology, which was 106 read and 47 write. Isn't that odd? I know.
Usually,
but this one, of course, writing makes sense because the Synology's full of data right now, so I wasn't super surprised with that.
Or maybe this is like cache, maybe it has memory set up to cache the data.
Quite possibly, yeah. So definitely average speeds with what I was expecting for a network attached storage at that price range. Really good, not surprising at all. And the QNAP is brand new, so great specs. So as far as those tech specs go, it has an ARM 1.1 gigahertz dual-core CPU. There's 2 gigs of DDR3 RAM and 4 gigs of flash memory. And then it can fit the 2 3.5-inch SATA hard disk drives, and you can do RAID either 0 or 1. I choose 1, obviously, and then you can also set them up as just like single disk or just a bunch of disks, which basically is just like you would do with a PC. So stick them in there.
RAID 1 is mirroring, so each drive has the same information. So if one drive dies, you still have your information. 0 would be striping, which would give you better performance. But if the drive dies, you're done.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like RAID 1 because it mirrors all of my data, so I have 2 is 1 and 1 is none, of course. It also has gigabit RJ45 on the back, so you have nice gigabit LAN. There is 1 USB 3.0 on the front for any kind of media storage or devices that you want to plug into it. There's 4 USB 2.0s on the back, which makes sense for the keyboard and mouse. And then there's HDMI 1.4B on the back as well. So that supports a max resolution of 4096 or 3840 by 2160 at 30 hertz. So keep that in mind if you do anything over like
if you want like 60 hertz 4K video, this is not the box for you. For the vast majority of people using 1080p.
Might not work out so well. Setup was a breeze. It was very, very easy to set up. They had on-screen directions for everything, and there was a Chrome app to actually access the operating system. And I can pull up the Chrome app so you can see what it looks like. So this is the Chrome app. It's called QFinder, and it just brings up any kind of network-attached storage devices for QNAP that are on your network. You simply click on it, log in, and then you get the operating system. So very, very easy to use. While on the same network, of course.
So basically you need the Chrome browser running the Chrome app to configure this. There's no like direct Windows or Mac OS.
You can of course do that as well. There are apps for
Linux.
Yes, I am on Linux, so I had to use the Chrome app. But there are Windows apps, there's Mac apps, and there are like server apps. So it's very easy to access from whatever operating system that you're using, which is what I was expecting for a network attached storage. For the speed test, I had to clunkily set up Samba file sharing because it wasn't on by default, which I've never had to do, and I had no clue what to look up, but apparently Samba is not on by default, so you have to figure out how to do that to actually set up. That was clunky. With media streaming, I tested the QNAP video app for Android, and I connected the NAS on the same network wirelessly. I was able to stream full HD content pretty much flawlessly. It looked very, very good. I can actually show you some of the HD content that I was actually able to run through here.
In terms of accessing this, the only reason you set up Samba was so you could do a speed test.
Yes, absolutely. And then I could also access it pretty much any other way that I would want to. So if I connect to here, you'll notice that I have some shared videos on here.
And right now you're actually running, this is the Android operating system on the box?
It is. Isn't that cool? So for this example, it's streaming HD content, it's full HD, flawlessly, very little delay with loading up the video file, and it looks great on my HD monitor. But when I was trying to pull up 3840 by 2160 video in 30 FPS, it was jerky in playback on the network PC, and it didn't even show up on my smartphone app, which was a little bit surprising for me. For apps available on this, there are very similar app choices for either the Synology or the QNAP, so either way you're going to get a very good offering. Both offer third-party applications, but some of them differ. I noticed Synology has a Logitech media server app, QNAP doesn't, but on the other hand, QNAP TAS-268 has a crash plan app, which is kind of cool.
So you can sync everything up to the cloud.
Exactly. So it kind of depends on what your specific use case scenario is for your NAS, as far as which kind of NAS you would want to buy. So in this case, this one, I would totally buy this and use it for media streaming because it has that Android operating system built in. It makes it so easy to access all your data no matter which network you are on. And if you download the Android app, you can log in over a network from a separate network and be able to access your stuff on the go. Although if you're trying to download like over 30 FPS or 40 what was it, 4860?
UHD.
Yeah, UHD.
4K.
It doesn't show up on that Android app, so the highest it can go is pretty much like full HD. So, or else it's going to down convert some of those videos.
Well, yeah, I mean, transcoding on the fly is something, if you have a lot of 4K video, and I really doubt you do, but if you do, finding a box or a streaming app that will transcode on the fly for 1080p devices or smaller resolution, hopefully just 1080p, is something to look for.
Of course, yep. So
$250?
I liked it.
$250, no drives.
$249, no drives. You have to buy those separately, and the drives that I was able to purchase cost around $100, $125 each.
Those were for 2 terabyte REDs?
Yes.
Store all the things.
Yes, all the things.
And then back them up online, which we'll talk about in a second. We love it when you help us answer questions, because there's like a zillion of you and 2 of us. Keith writes in, I am catching up on shows from being on vacation. First, in the most recent show, someone was looking for a backup network for their regular network that has issues. CradlePoint.com's website has cellular products to meet many needs. Among their offerings is an MBR 1200B that has automatic failover between the normal internet connection and a cellular internet connection, providing a higher level of availability.
Oh, that's very cool.
I had totally forgotten about CradlePoint. If you haven't seen it, CradlePoint basically deals with things you use to attach your network to wireless networks. Get a quote always makes me nervous when I see something, but it does something to solve a very specific problem. Probably,
yes, it
if
does.
CradlePoint is the company I used to know it as, in a very simple and easy to use manner.
Cool.
Just saying.
And we also got a message from Michael, who has another easy way to default to a mobile connection if your main ISP goes down. He says, I have done this when moving to a new apartment and needed internet for multiple computers before Charter could hook me up. I enabled the hotspot on my phone and then used a TP-Link TL MR3020 3G 4G wireless N150 portable router to connect to the hotspot on the phone, and then connected the Ethernet side of the TP-Link to the WAN side of my router. The router gets a DHCP address from the TP-Link, and the computers on the network go through the router to the TP-Link to the home hotspot, and then internet. Sounds complicated, but it worked great. That's
Total
awesome. Thank you.
alphabet soup of acronyms there, but yeah. And that one's $27 and
That's not bad.
66 cents.
Yeah, TP-Links, man.
Oh my goodness.
Those things have been around for a long time.
They don't die.
No, they don't.
If you need, although occasionally they use the TP-Link URL loss thing.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that. If you need backup terabytes offsite, Donnie's got an answer for you. He wrote ask@TekThing.com. There are a few options that won't break the bank. The one I personally use is the Amazon Cloud Drive Unlimited for $60 a year. It is actually 100 terabytes usable. They also have it for $5 a year, usually on Black Friday. I have nearly 30 terabytes I've backed up with no issues. I kind of cheat and use a VPS, $20 a year for 6 terabytes a month in transfers that uses ACD, CLI, and NCFS to upload and encrypt everything I upload to Amazon. I am working on a step-by-step blog post on this so others can benefit. Cool. There's also the option of O-Drive, which has a paid tier that does on-the-fly encryption if you don't feel like getting geeky. Since it is just one of many backups, I don't worry about speed as much, but it is enough that it can saturate my 100 megabit line. Love the show. Hope this helps, Donnie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it totally does. Thank you, Donnie.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody, for sending in your comments, your picks, your tips, everything. It really, really helps us out, of course, because as Patrick said, there's 2 of us, there's lots of you.
Got a question, curious to see us review something, got a tip or an idea, fire them out to ask@TekThing.com, please. Or you can tweet at TekThing, @Snuff, or at Patrick Norton. And hey, if you want to be part of the crew that makes this show possible, please contribute to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. Just $1 will make a difference, and you'll get access to our patron-only build videos and more. Thank you for your patronage. You make the show possible. And hey, if you can't donate, we understand. Send in those emails, and if you could spare a moment or two to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, so much news there, or review TekThing on iTunes, your fave podcatcher, we would really appreciate it because it all helps. Thank you so much for supporting the show, no matter how you do it.
With regards to the rumor that iPhones may remove their headphone jacks, and you guys all know how I feel about this, Stan makes a really, really good point. He says, hey guys, what bugs me is all the talk about music and headphones. I only use Bluetooth, but what about credit card readers like Smart, PayPal, Coin, and others, or medical devices like the one I use every day to read my blood glucose? It only works with the headphone jack. If Apple loses the headphone jack, I may be forced, after all these years since 2007, to move to Android. With regards, from Stan. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, and we use Square readers all the time for like hackshop.com stuff when we go to conventions. In medical devices is a really serious use case scenario. I mean, geez, what is Apple expecting everybody to do?
I don't mean to look glib, because +1 for medical devices and not wanting to replace them because you're missing a headphone jack. I would be curious to see if like Lightning audio jack adapters will allow stuff like your blood glucose reader to work through the Lightning jack. As far as Square goes and all the other payment systems, they will release a Lightning jack or Bluetooth connector for the Square reader almost immediately. Because, hey, the Square contactless plus chip reader uses Bluetooth, and oh, by the way, the Square stand is already using Lightning and has been for the point of sale stand for years. Look, I would be shocked if PayPal, Coin, and all the others don't follow along quickly, because they make a lot of money off of those adapters, and they want to continue making it. Yeah, but medical gear, other stuff, that's going to be tough.
And Tom added, Patrick Shannon, regarding the possible new trend with omitting the ubiquitous 3.5mm headphone jack, I think this is a terrible idea. There's no reason to remove it, as it serves its purpose quite nicely. One thing you didn't mention was how the new method will open the door for DRM on audio files. It will be very easy when using the Lightning connector to reinstitute DRM, as the file path is now all digital. We all know the reputation of the RIAA. Just picture Montgomery Burns wringing his hands and saying, excellent. Tom from Fremont, California. Did you like my Burns imitation?
Your Burns imitation is awesome. I'm going to say I wouldn't worry about DRM on music, because that horse has pretty much already left the barn. I don't know. Maybe there are tons of people out there recording tracks from Spotify or Amazon Prime using the headphone jack, but just remember that every device manufacturer that wants to make Lightning gear has to go through the MFi licensing program. And I think this is more about Apple making more money. The last numbers I had for MFi connectors, and it's dated from like 2014 at this point, is $4 per connector for product, and the cost of the hardware, that's the licensing, and then they have to buy the hardware from Avnet. Apple might reduce that for the i7 launch, or they might not. And also MFi, it's pretty crazy. That headphone jack is the last non-standard, non-Apple controlled connection into the phone other than the Bluetooth profiles in iOS. Apple makes it really easy to search for MFi licensed accessories and HomeKit items, but if you've never seen it, like MFi covers HomeKit technology, Apple Watch charging modules, Lightning and 30-pin connectors, authentication crow processors.
So like everything.
Yeah, I think this, I would be worried about DRM, except I don't really need to record anything off the headphone jack, and if I did, I could just plug in a Lightning to audio adapter. I just think this is Apple's way of being like, we can make another $5-10 per phone.
This would make it harder for podcasters, too, who use audio in on their phones to record podcasts. I just thought of that, too. Man, Apple.
Just buy another Lightning. Just buy a fresh MFi certified Lightning podcaster microphone.
This is why we're going to be talking about cheap stuff next week.
And cue the emails from people going like, if you didn't buy Apple, you wouldn't have these problems. Except it's coming for Android too.
All right, remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog. Like Nick's pick. And I'm going to pull up his email that he sent us and show you what he asked us.
This is what I'm out. Oh, I can't do it that way. This is what I'm out and doing.
Running.
The keyboard. But I have a question for TekThing. And it's like this. Often as not, the GPS is fine on here, and it measures the miles just okay. But there are days when it's bad. So, what can I add to my phone to improve the GPS tracking? Or should I just buy a Garmin and be done with it? So, that's the question. And this is Nick, Loudmouth Man Butler, signing off for another mile before the end. I look forward to your answers.
That was awesome. Thank you for sending that in, Nick. And I do have a couple of answers for you. Since I did email Nick and I asked him if he's using Android or iPhone, he did clarify that he's using an Android phone. So I found a couple of different things that he can do to improve his GPS signal on his Android device. There are a bunch of different settings that you can do, but first off, start with high accuracy mode. And this is going to more accurately let you navigate with your location settings. So it's going to help, especially in that, and probably Pokemon Go too, if you're playing Pokemon Go. Also make sure you calibrate your compass, because anytime that you are doing any kind of travel, your compass will need to be recalibrated. I noticed this a lot when I traveled to Japan. And in order to do that, whenever you open up the maps or some kind of GPS app, a lot of times you'll have to switch your phone back and forth, side to side, and then forwards and backwards until it finally calibrates to your new compass directions. Those two will definitely help you. And then of course we have a couple of links down in the show notes for a few other tutorials that you can run through for your settings.
Just make sure if you do turn on the sort of high accuracy GPS, you probably either want to make sure your phone is charged up or that you have an external battery to go along with it, which is not necessarily, people end up with the Garmin because they end up carrying a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
If you're just looking for better GPS and you don't have to run around carrying it, there are a ton of external Bluetooth GPS receivers that have fantastic reception and often will do data tracking or sort of waypoint tracking. That are very inexpensive and battery powered and won't suck down the life of your phone.
Cool.
So, but then you have to connect to them via Bluetooth, and that's a whole nother story.
So we hope that answer helped you out, Nick. Of course, let us know if it did work out for you. And if you guys have analog pics, you can always email them to us. We love seeing what you guys are doing from the day to day outside of your office environment. Email those ask@tekthing.com.
Or it could be analog inside the office environment.
It could be, yeah, it totally could be.
Not on the computer. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
What
So
is
Couch to 5K is basically like I walk a ton, but I want to start running again because chasing my children. And the Couch to 5K app is basically a program to take you from being entirely too sedentary to running your first 5K, which is like a 3-mile race.
Let me show you what I'm doing to get more active, because Couch to 5K actually sounds great. But so personally,
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Pocket monsters. So personally, I found this to be pretty useful. And then when you get your eggs, you have to hatch the eggs in a little incubator, and the only way you can hatch the incubators is by walking. So I have to walk 5 kilometers to make this egg hatch into a Pokemon. So either I can put it on my Roomba.
Nintendo Stealth Fitness.
That's what it is.
Nintendo will single-handedly improve the health of a generation.
Or I can like go outside.